When you allow 24 unanswered points,
Yes.
you don't deserve to win the game.
Yeah, pretty bad. Real bad.
That's my fact.
There you go. I don't disagree with that fact. Look, lot to get to here today. I will say this out of the gate. I'm not quite as devastated as I hear a lot of people are, because I think you're going to have these moments in a season at times.
I agree with that.
So I hear a lot of people almost like freaking out to a point I think is a little too far.
I agree with that.
Team's still 8-3. Team's still the second seed. Team's still going to make the playoffs. Team still has a shot to be the 1 seed. So I will say that out of the gate. That's part of how I feel. The rest of how I feel obviously was discussed with what we saw yesterday. I mean, there was so much that went wrong. And to me, it's more about the big picture of what it represents. Because is it just a game, or is it emblematic of what we have? So we have obviously a pretty good team. But we also have a team that consistently cannot run the ball effectively. So the simple math is this. They've played 11 games, and in 10 out of the 11, they haven't run it well. That's just a fact. 10 out of 11 games, they haven't run it well. And I've heard a lot of people say after the game, well, they abandoned the run when they had that lead. I don't know if it's as much they abandoned it or Nick Sirianni and Kevin Petullo didn't think they effectively would run it well.
Well,
so, there's...
regardless of the reason, they abandoned it.
They do not run the football well. Go ahead,
10
John.
carries for 22 yards?
Yeah.
That means you abandoned it. You didn't commit to the run, which is another. It's sort of the benchmark of the season. Just ineffective run game, but we always chalk it up to the broken down offensive line. I don't know. At some point, the offensive line has to come together with the new guys, and I keep expecting it. It doesn't seem like it happens. And then for a half, it seems like there are glints. It felt like the offense in that first half got into the rhythm that we have been yearning to see for quite some time. And that meant we got into pockets of the playbook that we haven't seen for quite some time, and wherever. And then it was kind of like, hey, this could be where it's at. Like, hey, I could get used to this Kevin Petullo thing. And then the second half happened.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, that's the thing.
Happen?
It's confounding. And that part to me was back to what, because if you remember about 2 months ago, this is what the Eagles were doing in September and early October, pretty much every game. They'd offensively had one great half and then one horrible half. So it'd be backwards sometimes. Sometimes they'd play great in the first half, bad in the second half. Sometimes they'd play bad in the first half, great in the second half. But that's what Eagles offensive football in September and the first half of October was. Then they'd gotten away from that, and then here it was again, probably for about the sixth time this year, roughly. I mean, it's hard to remember all these games, but I'd say for about half the games, they've had this incredible split. It's like a split personality. One half, they can't be stopped. The other half, they can't do anything. So you had that again. I also think we saw a lot more dumb football than we typically see from the Eagles. First of all, I'm going to start with the coach at the end.
That goes without saying.
I want to start with the coach. I think it's the third straight game. He has managed the game poorly in a critical moment. I thought the timeout with 45 seconds remaining in the game was a freaking disaster. The Dallas Cowboys did just run a play where they didn't go anywhere. So they're facing a 2nd and 10. I thought their coach had I don't know, 2 or 3, I forget, had a couple in a row of mistakes taking timeouts. So the Cowboys all of a sudden are out of timeouts. So the Cowboys have the ball across midfield at the 45. They go nowhere on first down. Clock's ticking. Dallas has no timeouts. Dak Prescott's a quarterback through the years who, in the crucible of the moment, the big spot, the big moment, the big game, the clock's ticking, we've seen him crumble before. And he's a pretty good quarterback, as we saw again yesterday. But the reality is, I thought Sirianni freaking bailed him, Dallas, and their coach out by taking a timeout when he absolutely not only did not have to, should not have. Should not have. I would have loved to have seen what would have happened if Dallas had to scramble to get up to the line. Let's say they snap it with 30 seconds, 28 seconds to go. I mean, you could have had a whole different scenario. But Sirianni, I thought that was dumb. Obviously, I mean, nothing's more dumb than catching a freaking punt on the 2-yard line. Hello? I mean, that's as dumb as it gets. Pre-snap penalties obviously are an example of undisciplined football. So, I mean, just...
Gibson should get cut at this point. The decision-making, it's not the first time. It's not the first time that we've seen dumb catches being made. Balls that should be let go into the end zone, that sort of things, or out of bounds. I don't know. There has to be better out there. there has to be more reliable.
Well, you do
have Covey still on this team?
Well, you know who is also you got Cooper DeJean when you want him.
Well, yeah,
you do. I mean, you just
and that's a point where you use them.
Well, listen, I mean, maybe we're getting to the point in the season when you use them. You know, I mean, that's the one thing we know they have in their back pocket, and I agree with you. Covey's another option. I like him. The Gibson thing, I mean, it was a fiasco. I mean, I don't know if because is he because he's looking up, he loses awareness of where he is? Does he think he's on the 8? I mean, first of all, you probably shouldn't have been catching on the 6 or 7 or 8, but okay, let's say the 10-yard line is generally your spot. You know, you're going to catch it around the 10.
Sure.
Because if it's the 12, it might bounce to the 2. If it's the 8, it's good shot, it goes in the end zone. That's sort of the theory. But the guy catches the ball on the 2-yard line, and then he fumbles the ball? So, you know, obviously issues there. And then concerned with the injuries as it relates to the rest of the season, defensive secondary. I mean, guys, let's face facts. Had these 3 guys not gotten injured, and the one was at the very, very end, so that doesn't count as much. But the Blankenship injury really changed the game. The Adoree Jackson injury obviously was not great, so the concussion for him, well, to see Blankenship's status moving forward.
Makuba was in a boot after the game.
Well, Makuba is the one you worry about the most for the rest of the year. Now, that one I thought had the least impact in the game. It was the very end of the game. But that was the one that looked the worst in the moment on the field. So you got issues there. I mean, it's just, look, we'll take your calls, 215-592-9494. I will reiterate what I said earlier. I'm not quite as concerned as I sense some are, but obviously I'm not thrilled. I mean, this was, James, this was an ugly loss by the Philadelphia Eagles.
14 penalties, man.
Yeah,
like 14. And this is week 12 of the season. I think until this season, one of the hallmarks of Sirianni has been that they've cleaned things up as the season has gone on for the most part. 2023 was a lot of factors, but even his first season, they had like 7 games in, record penalties. They cleaned things up. We've seen none of that this year. Yeah. I mean, this team is just as sloppy, just as undisciplined, and just as shooting yourself in the foot as they've been all season long. And a game like yesterday, like you could point to a million different things, but just take half those penalties away, they probably win the football game.
Easily.
So it's just that was an all-time bad regular season loss and an all-time infuriating watch.
So I will say this. I thought their 21-0 lead, and I can honestly tell you in the moment, I thought it was a little, I don't want to say phony baloney, but a little bit. Let me put it this way. The Dallas Cowboys had given them a lot. The Cowboys, for the first 21 points, they have a roughing the punter penalty, which continues the drive. They have a guy lined up off sides in the neutral zone on a 3rd and 10, which continues the drive. So I think that was the same drive, I believe. That felt like a freaking long drive because twice they had stopped the Eagles and twice the Eagles kept going. So that was like a long-ass drive. You had the situation where Dak throws the interception in the end zone. I mean, I thought there was, and I'm not taking away what the Eagles were doing in the first quarter, being up 21-0, early second quarter, but I did feel like it was also a lot of Dallas doing dumb stuff. I mean, it's just,
no kidding.
Right, John?
Without a doubt. It felt like we were making plays, though, also. You know, our defense was scrapping and making plays, but that Dallas offense, they were shooting themselves repeatedly in the first half. I mean, they scored 0 points.
Yeah. And CeeDee Lamb, how many times did he drop the ball?
3 or 4.
It was outrageous.
And that's after dropping it 4 times the previous, week 1 when we played on.
And I'm ticked that, in let's say the second quarter, I don't know, let's say the second quarter, when Pickens is doing his antics after certain catches, and I'm like, dude, your team's down 21, or your team's down 21-7, or your team stinks, or your team's below 500.
I said the same thing in my head.
But you know what?
And then
but give it that
he
guy
led
credit.
His team back.
I thought he was the best player in the game.
Well, he was uncoverable by what we were doing, and sadly, Cooper DeJean was taken advantage of.
We saw John.
Cooper DeJean, when on the outside, was taken full advantage of, not just by him.
Yeah, I noticed.
CeeDee Lamb.
And also,
well.
I think it was the first play Cooper DeJean had bumped outside. The Cowboys had a big run up the middle, which is the kind of spot. It was one of the early plays when he was outside. Kind of spot he typically would be in a good tackling spot to shut that thing down. So I think the Cooper DeJean to outside corner thing took a hit yesterday. Look, it's not the end of the world, but it is a setback because we know how much home field advantage matters in the playoffs. And we know the Eagles got very fortunate last year because Detroit limped into the playoffs with all those injuries and got clipped by a clearly inferior Washington team, which obviously gave the Eagles home field advantage in the NFC Championship game. I mean, that is a very simple connecting of the dots of a major part of how the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year. Major. Now, as of now, with about a month and a half to go in the regular season, as of now, they'd have to play on the road. Of course, this Eagles-Bears game's huge because not only do you have 1-seed implications, but you have 2-seed implications. So there are 4 different teams that are 8-3 in the conference. These are 2 of them. They square off on frickin' Friday. Short turnaround. Major game.
Yeah, this is unbelievable.
Major game.